Hi, welcome to Bear Mountain. Today we're planting tulips. We've got about 1,000 tulips here of two different flavors. And what we do is, on our tulips, we do what's called the 5-degree program. From our bulb vendor, what they do is they pre-vernalize the bulbs, and we plant them and specific release dates timed to come on gradually over the course of the tulip season. The major advantage of that is when you just buy bulbs that you stick in the ground that have to vernalize through the winter, they tend to come on very quickly, one right after each other, or maybe all at the same time. And if you're planting thousands of bulbs in the course of a season, that could be a bit of a logistics headache to deal with. So what we do is we tend to plant about 1,000 or so every couple of weeks, and starting in right around the first part of November and through early part of February.
Well, now that we have the hole dug out for laying our tulips out, what we did is we amended it with peat moss, and we wanted to make sure that the peat moss was really well mixed into the first about inch or two of the soil, and the soil itself has quite a bit of moisture in it. We want to start from a point where the soil, where the bottom of the tulip is not sopping wet, but has quite a bit of moisture in it so that it'll get the signal to start to grow. And as we talked about earlier, what we do is we in the hoop house use the 5-degree program tulips, meaning they've been pre-vernalized, so they don't need to go through a cold treatment in order to get to the point of starting to grow and bloom. It's essentially the same thing as saying I'm planting tulips that stayed in the ground all winter and are ready to start growing. And these guys will take off, and probably in about 8 to 10 weeks they'll be up and they'll be close to blooming, which will put us pretty close to Valentine's Day. So we have the peat moss amended, and we're gonna, since we have a pretty heavy clay, we're gonna do a couple things. We're gonna put some cottonseed meal down, and that's just for a little bit of extra fertility, but mostly these tulips don't really need a lot. But cottonseed meal also helps feed the funguses and the other natural microbiology in the soil as we go through. So we just kind of mix it in with our hands. This is a bed that's been already forked and composted and all that kind of stuff, so the soil has a pretty good depth to it. And since we have a fairly heavy clay, in order to get the tulip to release correctly without busting the bulb off when we pull them in the spring, and we'll do another video on that, we lay some sand down just below the base of the bulb. So as an example, we'll put this is just paver sand. You can get it for a couple, $3 or $4 for a 50-pound bag if you need to go that route, or if you got access to cheap sand. It doesn't have to be anything really fancy. And once we lay them out, we just start, we plant, these beds are 2.5 foot wide, so we plant approximately 15 bulbs per row. And just kind of press them into the ground. 2, 4, 6, 8. I think I might have started just a little bit there. It's 10. Let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. Uh-oh, gotta have room for one more. So I'll just squeeze that guy right in there. And that's our first row. Then we just keep repeating until we fill in this trench. Just throw a little extra sand down. Oh, and one of the other things that's important to note, just the last issue on this, is when you get these bulbs, you can have your bulb vendor take care of this for you. Have them peel right around the growth so that this paper doesn't inhibit the roots coming out, so that paper has been removed around the roots. That's very important. You can either do that yourself, or you can pay your bulb guy to do it for you. After we get these all laid out, we'll show you the next step, which will be digging the next trench and backfilling in.
And you may ask, well, why didn't we dig a complete trench all the way down? Well, we don't, because what we do is we're getting a twofer out of this in a sense, is the top 12 inches have been prepared, composted, mineralized, forked up, and all that sort of thing. But the underneath, next 12 inches, where the roots of the tulips will be growing, basically needs to be worked up. So in essence, what we're getting out of this is a double dig. So as we progress up the bed, this bed will be really loose and friable down to almost 24 inches, and which will be super after the tulips are finished for the next rotation of flowers that we'll be putting in here. So the first group of 150 have been laid out. What we do is, so we know where to start the next one, we just take a simple marker and put it by the last row. And as we talked earlier, we put them in rows of 15, and we put a little sand on the bottom because we have a pretty heavy clay soil. It helps with the release of the tulip. And then the next step is we just look at our next trench for our next 150, which should be about 2 shovels, roughly right around here. And we'll just start kind of digging it in, loosen the soil up a little bit, spread it over the top. And what we do, after we get about an inch of regular soil over the top, is we're going to spread just a pinch of peat moss in it. And that'll just keep it from getting totally caked up. An inch of regular soil over the top, because we're going to spread just a pinch of peat moss in it, and that'll just keep it from getting totally caked up.
Did you water the bulbs before we're covering them?
No, we don't. The soil itself has already been pre-watered and has sat for about 4 or 5 days. So in what's in the groundwater itself, plus what we've applied to the top, there's quite a bit of moisture in the soil itself. We will, once we're finished planting this group, we'll come back through and we'll give it a good soaking. But that's really going to be basically about it. Unless it gets really warm in here and the soil starts to dry out, we probably won't water again. So the next step will be putting the peat moss on, finish filling this, and digging this trench. So this is really a repetitive situation. Once we get this trench dug out, this will be buried. We'll amend the soil, fork it, put some peat moss in it and sand on the bottom, some cottonseed meal, just like we did in that one. We'll lay out another group of 150, then we'll bury that one with the next group. So on and on and on until we're finished planting. And that's how we do it. Thanks for watching today. And by the way, if you'd like to help support our efforts, up in the right-hand corner, there is an I. If you hit that, it has some show notes in there and also links to other videos, plus any kind of, if you want to find out more about us, a link to our website. If you'd like to subscribe today, we'd really appreciate that too. We're trying to put these videos together to help a lot of flower growers figure out how to do things that seem to be kind of second nature to some folks, but we just want to show how we do it here on the farm. So thanks for watching today.